All right, welcome to the Better Man podcast with Manful Yoga. Today I've got a very special guest. This is Anthony Balduzzi. Is it Balducci or is it Balduzzi of the Fit
Yeah, I
Father
think it might have
Project?
been Balduzzi back in the day, but it's been Balduzzi for a while, at least in our family. You know, the
Yeah.
Italian C's and the Z's are pretty similar, but Anthony Balduzzi, yeah.
Okay. I kind of wanted like this really rich Balducci, but
You can still
that's
do
okay.
the Balduzzi.
Thank you.
Balduzzi,
And you have to move your fingers while you do it, or it
for
doesn't
sure. Extra
doesn't
Italian
work.
power.
Nice. Let me tell the story of how we met. So this was a very long courting. I spent about a year and a half messaging messaging Anthony, the Doctor A, on the Fit Father Project. And I think it took about 6 months, but then he responded, and then I didn't notice that he responded for another 4 months, and then I eventually got back to him, and then we set up a call, and during that first call we were like, oh, this is a go, we got to do something, and we planned on creating a major project together in the first phone call. So
Yeah.
it was fate. It took a while, but we eventually made it work.
Yeah. Well, it's been a cool journey. And just the sneak peek is I'm really grateful that you were able to produce a private yoga program for our Fit Father members. It's going to be amazing. So we have a lot of good things to be here. I'm happy to be in partnership, and I hope we
Mhm.
have a good conversation today about men's health and anywhere else we go.
Oh yeah, man. We're gonna go deep. I'm gonna do my best, and you're a guy that's open enough to do it, and that's something
Mm.
that I want to talk to you later on. Something that I first noticed when we had when we just met. You have this ability to look at things in life that seem mundane or normal and say, "How beautiful is that?" And I for a
Mm.
while I was like, "There's no way anybody's actually like that. I don't believe it. Like that's bullshit."
Mm.
And then then I started to meet more people like that, and I'm like, oh, you know what, there's just something special about them. So I'm going to ask you about that later, but
Yeah.
anyways, that's the type of person that Anthony is. Just so you know, should I be calling you Dr. A? I feel like I'm taking away from your
That
credibility.
No, it's fine. I appreciate that. You know, it's funny. I don't even know what to call myself, but in many instances in the business, I refer to myself as Dr. A
Hmm.
because, hey, look, I am a doctor. I know a lot about health. At the same time, I'm your friend, and
Hmm.
I kind of feel it feels stodgy to be anything else. You know what I mean?
Dr. A
So the
sounds
persona
friendly
Dr.
though.
A.
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
I'm a friendly guy, so let's use that one.
Yeah. And I want to, I'll bring that up right now because I wanted to anyways, but you have kind of an interesting story of how you made your way into becoming a doctor. You started off as a bodybuilder. I think you said at when you were competing, you were at what, 250 pounds or two?
Yeah, yeah. So let me take it back a step
Jeez.
further because I think it's pretty relevant before
Yeah.
we get there. Is that the reason I became passionate about health and fitness as a kid is because my dad was very sick growing up,
Hmm.
and I watched him die when he was 42 years old.
Jeez.
I was 9. It was like right before my
Wow.
10th birthday. It was like a couple months, and
What was he like?
having that yeah, he had cancer. He had cancer,
Yeah.
and man, I just saw him like work his ass off to put food on the table for our family, and he got cancer, and then I saw him fight for his life and eventually pass away at 42. And so
Wow.
to see your parents go through health decline, decay of the body, loss of vitality and strength, it made such an impression on me as a young man that I knew I was almost compelled from that point in my life to pursue how do I strengthen and increase my vitality?
Hmm.
How do I start to become strong? And so it led me in my very early teens. I was in high school reading nutrition books and packing my own meals and starting to cook things, learning how to train. And I'm a pretty smart guy. I started approaching this from a really in-depth study perspective. And eventually, as a testosterone fueled 18-year-old man, it led me into wanting to get huge.
Right.
So as you're lifting more, you're getting muscle, and then I was always inspired by looking at these muscle magazines of these bodybuilders, and I was just like, holy shit, you can look like that
Mm.
through training. And for whatever reason, it captured my heart. And
Mm.
bodybuilding, I would say, was probably one of my first loves. And I actually picked the college I went to. Went to my guidance counselor. I'm like, what's the best school you think I can get into that also has an amazing gym? And so we did this. We did like the search, and I
Wow.
ended up going to finding a place called the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, And when I walked into their gym, they had a bodybuilding show. It said Mr. Penn bodybuilding show. And I looked at my mom and I'm like, Mom, I'm going to come here to this school and I'm going to win that thing one day.
That's a
And
you
so
know
I go to the school.
it's a
Yeah,
pretty
go
good
ahead.
school. It's not typically known. I don't think people typically think of University of Pennsylvania for the gym. But
No,
if that's what got you there, then
they had
great, man.
it did. I like the gym, and I spent a lot of time there in college, probably more so than I did anything in class. And I started competing. I started becoming a competitive bodybuilder. I won my first show, I think, about a year later. I ended up winning that Mr. Penn show, going on to compete at a national level after those Mr. Penn shows. Lost that show, came back. Anyways, there's a mini amateur bodybuilding career that's happening at this period of my life,
Hmm.
and I'm learning so much. I'm getting to explore the world. Bodybuilding.com brought me out for some really cool like sponsoring things. And as a young man in your 20s, you're like, this is sweet, man. I'm
Hmm.
winning bodybuilding shows. All my knowledge is paying off, and it developed in me a sense of ego,
Hmm.
attachment to the body. Like you would still say I was a good guy, but there was some attachments that came along with this physical process, and I also gained confidence, and there was some good stuff too. And I
Hmm.
decided to attend naturopathic medical school, which is different than your traditional MD, which you would call a medical doctor. You have DOs, which are
Hmm.
also doctors of osteopathy. You may see those around a lot.
Hmm.
And there's another licensed degree in many states called a naturopathic doctor, an NMD. And so I looked at the program, and it basically was a medical training really based on the principles of prevention, treating the whole person, using food as medicine, and many of these more natural approaches that when I saw what my dad went through and also just looked around too, I didn't really jive with the current medical culture we
Hmm.
have, where it's like, you have a problem, here's a fucking pill for that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's ultimately what ironically I'm helping guys fix now with Fit Father Project, because look around at the number of people who are sick today. It's like probably 60% of men over 40 are obese and on multiple prescription medications for cholesterol,
Jeez.
high blood pressure, blood sugar stuff. And the guys in their 30s who aren't there yet are setting themselves up through like stress, poor living, not living
Yeah.
in accordance to natural law. You'll get there when you're 40. Just tack on some kids, 10 years, and some stress. And like,
Hmm.
it's not hard to see how many people get into this situation.
Right.
So, um, I don't know. At this point, it kind of seems like this turned into the story of Anthony Life Rant, but I guess we're almost at the end. So I go to naturopathic medical school, and my life has changed.
Yeah.
It's changed in many ways through what I learn and how connected I get to the healing arts.
Hmm.
But two, because in the very final year of medical school, before I graduate, I go on a skiing trip with one of my friends, a buddy, and we are getting after it. We're both very good skiers, and we're just bombing this day. And I had an intuition that I needed to slow down and not mess with it. And my buddy Barrick did too. We didn't say anything to each other. Day charges on, and there's like this one run I was going off that has a little bit of like a slope down. It's like something very skiable, but if you're taking it really hot, like heavy
Hmm.
and hot, and you jump a little bit, you can float for like 15, 20 feet. It's like kind of like leaping off this little hill at high speed. And so I do this. And on the bottom, as I land, I absolutely eat shit. I just, everything destroyed, flying down the hill. I end up slamming into a tree at about 30 miles per hour, shattering my femur, breaking my arm, and almost dying on the spot. I get evacuated out of there. I go through this reconstructive leg experience where they had to build back my leg, rods, screws, lengthening surgeries, all this. And through this process, to loop back to what you were asking about why I see everything as beautiful, this is part of my purification process of
Mm.
this death of my ego and detachment from my body. Because I had to, as I went from this cocky 20-year-old elite bodybuilder kind of dude down to a broken man in his 20s and 30s, body kind of destroyed in the rebuilding process. It led to deep spiritual awakenings that I believe were the best thing that's ever happened in my life,
Yeah.
and has really led to the blossom of all this. And all this is happening at the same time we're building Fit Father Project,
Yeah.
which is
So
basically taking what I learned in medical school and helping guys lose weight. Yes.
yeah. So I want to dig into that death of the ego a little bit.
Okay.
What was going on? I mean, what was going on in your head? What what did you have to
Okay.
go through in order to go from I am an extremely attractive bodybuilder with muscles on muscles, my body is wrapped up, my self image, my self worth is wrapped up in my body, how I look, my how
Mm.
powerful I feel. And
Yeah,
you had to go from there to, my body is not what I thought it was. What, I mean, what did you go through? What strategies did you use to work through that? I would love to know
Mm.
about, like, what's the deep work that went on?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's the deep work that can truly happen in every moment, which is feeling feeling everything that naturally arises and experiencing that and kind of being with it and trying to understand it. So here's what I'll share. You can see how the unfoldment happens.
Mm,
At first, you wake up in hospital bed and your just shit is all shattered, and you're just trying to like figure out what even happened and trying to piece it together. Over time, as you progress in having the leg, you're inherently confronted with limitations immediately.
mm,
You can fight it, but humility will find you. Like when you can't, get up off the toilet by yourself, you can't move. You have to pee in a cup because your leg is so fucking shattered you can't move it. So humility finds you in these intense experiences, and if it does, and that starts to soften this grasp that we have on these things we're attached to. Now, the next thing I want to share is pain. Pain is amazing because it gives you the opportunity to detach from your body. We feel pain, it is sensation. When we experience pain and we reject pain, we then start to suffer. They could have two people with the same kind of amount of hurt leg. One can be suffering tremendously more because of their attachment to the pain and all the thinking that comes around with that. Whereas you can also observe pain, much as like people do in meditation, when you sit and you observe the movement of the breath
mm,
naturally. And when you start to observe either the breath or the constant sensation of pain, then in many ways you've just been gifted if you've had a tremendous injury. Um, it starts to awaken you to the fact that you are not the body. You have a body, but you are not the body.
mm,
You can observe it. And I'll tell you this, as a man who spent more time in pain in bed than anyone I may know at my age, you can also do amazing things with your mind to completely not experience that pain. Like in a deep state of meditation with the mind withdrawn from the sensation in the body and just sitting into the experience of being itself, there are times where I can experience no pain for prolonged bits. And this is during that intense period. But also, like, I got to figure this stuff out through my own direct experience of closing my eyes and also just like the things that arose and force out of that.
mm,
Now, for people who don't, this would be now a little bit of unsolicited advice, but for people who aren't gifted these intense, powerful experiences that almost make you choose between the path of growth or more attachment and suffering, I do think the practice of regularly observing your own mind through something like meditation is the number one thing that has continued to sustainably lead me to a place of seeing everything as beautiful.
mm,
Because ultimately, when you start to no longer attach to all these things we're attached to, like for many years I was insecure about how my nose looked. Like physical insecurities are things we attach to. Those
mm,
also can be observed and dissipated when we observe our regular habitual patterns, all the kind of mental scripts that are running, and we come to the realization that we are observing them, they come and go, we are still here, we are not those things. It
mm.
can create a psychological distance, a healthy observer observed effect, which can loosen the bonds that chain us all.
Yeah.
Are we not limited effectively by our own attachments to our own kind of past bullshit and maybe what our beliefs are? In many ways, yes, these things can imprison us, but also when released, I feel like you can experience life as this flow of absolute beauty.
Yeah.
And many people have that as an experience they have here. This is kind of what's been real for me, though.
Yeah. So, like, two things came up. So, it sounds like to me, when you were in that experience, when you were experiencing this pain, in a way, it sounds like it was an easy choice, right? You can stay attached to this,
Hmm.
you can stay attached to the pain, you can stay
And reject
attached.
it. I can't
Yeah.
believe I'm in pain. Why are you here? Why is
Yeah.
this happening? Yes, a denial of exactly what is. And the only present
Hmm.
reality is that I am here and this is the sensation of pain. It is here too.
Yeah.
No rejection,
And and
acceptance.
and kind of what I'm also feeling or intuiting is that you had this, you could cling to the expectations of what your body was and have that pain, or you could choose, okay, this is different, but there's no pain in this. That's
Yes.
kind of what I'm
Yeah,
feeling.
for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yes. And what's also really amazing is when you get your body and your mind out of that state of fearful attachment, you actually bring your body into a state that it's able to heal faster.
Mm,
Like a happy, relaxed, like accepted body is better at healing than
yeah.
one that is in a sympathetic stress state. I mean,
Yeah.
one is trying to be stressfully active.
I had a friend who, his name is Chris Bachlet. He was a former Major League Lacrosse player, super, I think it was an All American collegiate lacrosse player. And he had a terrible skateboarding accident or longboarding accident, serious head injury. And his mom came to the hospital, and she encouraged him to meditate, and
Mhm.
he's a super positive person. Anyways, his name is like one of the nicknames people have for him is like Big Chris Energy. This idea of Big Chris, he's just a super happy guy.
Nice.
He does summer lacrosse camps for kids. He's an awesome guy. But combining his positive mindset with practicing meditation, he was able to recover way faster than any of the doctors expected him to,
For sure.
because and it's just such a cool story because it kind of flies against the face of what you hear about from traditional prognosis, what you'll hear about from doctors, like, oh, he's going to be out 8 weeks, or you hear
For
stories
sure.
about, oh, you'll never walk again, and then they use that as
And
fuel
and
to.
we adopt these beliefs as ours oftentimes, and that's the one only real mistake is made is we have a culture that means that we accept these kind of limitations. And I also think there's a lot of and this is something I really value from naturopathic medicine. I think that traditional medicine, because it's made so many advancements, um, can be very prideful at times. And I think if we think we have this body figured out at this point based on our applications of pharmacology
Mhm.
and surgery, then we are so silly and prideful. There is so much more to this body than we understand. And a lot of it's likely in the frontiers of electromagnetism.
Mm,
And we have this Leo, this electric spine, and how that governs the nervous system, governs all the functions, and how the mind interfaces with all of that.
mhm,
Like, just look at the stories we hear from all these other things of humans using the power of the mind to do incredible things,
mhm,
whether that's people doing the tumo meditation that they do and they're like steaming off snow in the Himalayas, or like a Wim Hof style guy who uses concentrated breathing in like a meditative state to achieve big physiology changes, to all the other amazing fantastic things. The mind is the frontier, and I think we have a very much like a doctor patient, uh, I'm outsourcing my healing abilities, kind of like subtle culture right now in medicine. Whereas I believe the medicine of the future, when we understand more and people are able to like rise, is going to be one for where individuals feel personally empowered, um, with simple and basic foundational things, living in
mhm.
accordance to natural law to be able to maintain their own health.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, but I also see we have a system that's driven largely by profit as well.
Mhm.
It's no mistake that we're trying to push pills on people.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had this conversation with so my coach runs this company called Central Athlete. Met him here in Austin, but I had him on the Better Man podcast a few weeks ago, or depending on when this goes live, whenever that is. And this is something that we're talking about, um, how doctors, at least in their traditional sense in the West, their job is not to help you with your lifestyle; it's to treat acute pain. It's to treat
Yes,
acute
for sure.
symptom, and they're not. So and he was getting at, it's up to the kind of the frontline fitness professionals to start working on,
Yes.
you know, teaching people how to live healthy lifestyles, and that doctors are, obviously they're very important, but they are not there to train you about lifestyle. They are there
Yeah,
to
they don't
help
have
with
the
acute
time. They
things.
don't have the time.
Hmm.
The model doesn't work for it,
Yeah.
and And honestly, most MDs need a shit ton more training in the
Hmm.
fields of nutrition, you know, because it's not how their school is designed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing. And I have I'm very sympathetic to doctors in general because my dad is an oncologist.
Yeah.
So, when I'm in health world, I'm in health and fitness world. So when I see people saying like doctors are out to get your money and big pharma just wants, I'm like, they're doing the best they can with the models that they've developed. And this is also
Yeah,
what most people expect. Most
for
people
sure.
expect to be able to get a pill to treat their symptoms. They're not going,
100%.
they're not going
It's
in
feeding
thinking,
it's feeding itself.
yeah,
Yes.
they're not going in thinking, okay, teach me what to eat. Teach me how to
Yeah.
exercise. Teach me how to change my mindset. How do I manage stress?
Correct.
It's so,
Correct. That's what guys like you and me are
anyways.
out here trying to do. And I want to, before we move on to that, because I think that'd be fun to start to get into some specifics on the health stuff.
Mm,
I do want to say this as well. Um, I have the utmost respect for all doctors that go into professions, regardless of what type of letters are behind people's names. And I'll say particularly the MDs. I've had a series of MDs that have like saved my body and my life,
mm,
so I'm grateful too.
yeah.
And I also really do appreciate that I'm a man who's really figured out how to keep this body, besides injuring myself in crazy accidents, to
Hmm.
keep this body in fantastic health in accordance to what I believe are the natural laws of how we should manage our bodies. Um,
Hmm.
it's amazing. All right,
Yeah.
so pause there.
100%.
Let's keep on going.
Yeah. And let's see if we come back to the, the medical system later on. But I wanted to ask you, as your, in your expertise, as the Fit Father Project mastermind, genius, whatever we want to call this, what are the biggest components of getting healthy, of losing weight that guys would not expect? A lot of guys, you talk to a lot of guys in their 40s, 50s, let's see, say even 60s, and they're like, yeah, I just need to lose some weight, so I'm going to start jogging, I'm going to start lifting weights again, and that's
Right.
just going to melt the fat right off. And there's people, just they understand so little about how weight loss works. So I just want to know from you, what are, let's say, three of the biggest components to living a healthier lifestyle, to losing weight, that guys would not expect.
Gotcha. Well, first off, I'll say it's pretty interesting because I think there are some humongous misconceptions out there, like the idea that particularly as you age, that you can out exercise a bad diet,
Mm,
or that exercise takes priority over nutrition. So maybe some people do that, and I still, there are people we meet through our programs that really truly believe they could just go like run more or do stuff and just not change nutrition. They'd be frustrated losing weight. Yeah, at the same time, there are so many people, particularly in the United States, that have been through the diet ringer a million times. They
mm,
know that nutrition is the key. Like they know that it's really important. The problem is it is incredibly hard, or has been for most people up to this point in their lives, to create a sustainable nutrition plan,
mm.
like
Yes,
one
sustainable.
they could actually stick to, right? I mean, they've tried keto for some time, maybe some plant-based for some time, or whatever the hell it was. Even if you get something like Weight Watchers or Nutrisystem, right? We'll ship you food for the next 12 weeks. Oh, you lost weight? Who would have thought? But you're going to buy my damn boxed food for the next 40 years? You have no habits on how to like maintain this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's not to that, and that's not to be disparaging to anyone who's struggling with this. Most people are struggling with this, which means it's a really common and hard problem.
Hmm.
And the reason it's common and hard is because we are so damn busy in today's day and age,
Mm,
that it's hard. It's oftentimes, if you don't have the habits, to find a way to create new habits amidst the chaos of your life. If you have kids, it makes it even more complicated with all the logistics involved with that. And we have a lot of emotional baggage around food, and food also tastes
mm,
good. People use it for stress relief,
yeah.
many, many things. Now, that all sounds like a freaking mess. How do you start to unpack that? Well, the way we think about unpacking that and teaching people and helping them make change is this very simple fact. Every day we wake up, this is an opportunity. Like our life is in these sectioned units. We have this kind of day, and we have the ability to make that day like positive and productive towards our goals of losing weight. And that means that we're going to need to do some things in the categories of moving our body, taking care of nutrition, et cetera, et cetera. How do we
Yeah.
actually make that process like sustainable,
Hmm.
smooth, fits your lifestyle, actually enjoyable? If you can
Yeah.
check these boxes, you're golden. And now you also got to make it
Repeat
simple.
those four ones for me again.
Yeah, I would say it 100% has to be sustainable,
Hmm.
right? It has to be smooth, which
Hmm.
is very much with sustainable. If there's too many friction points,
Hmm.
you're not going to stick with it.
You have to
It
be
has
able
to
to
be
do it.
simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be able to do it, which means simple,
Hmm.
deploy it, but it actually has to be enjoyable. And
Mm,
this is the one that I think most people miss, is like it has to be enjoyable, and
mm,
it has to be in respect to the rhythms of our life. So let's get into this. One of the first things we do on our Fit Father meal plan is we have people decide what their meal timing schedule is. When do you eat? Let's like, just like how the body is built, like we got like a bone structure, right? That then the muscles hang off of. This when question is the structure of your entire thing. When do you eat? Are you the kind of person who enjoys breakfast, or you wake up really early for work? Then maybe you might want to do something like this:
mm,
breakfast early, lunch noon, afternoon mini meal at 3, dinner at 6, 7. Okay, we call it like a 4x4. Or you're someone who's not hungry for breakfast and you want to do some intermittent fasting. You skip the first meal, you have the first meal maybe at 11 or noon, maybe you have that snack at 3, dinner at 4. Or if we even have like meal timing schedule setups for people who work like night shift, third shift, whatever. Point is, you decide on that.
mm,
That gives you the scaffolding and structure, because this is really important for a couple reasons. One, every new day, regardless of what you did yesterday, these are like behavioral hooks that you can go onto,
mhm,
especially if you make your first meal of the day a consistent meal one. We help people do like, maybe it's one of our like awesome smoothie recipes with a bunch of like protein and good stuff in there, berries, cacao, whatever, that kind of thing. Maybe it's some eggs and some fruit. Maybe it's some overnight oatmeal. Like, make that first meal of the day anchored and sustainable. Psychologically, what this is doing is setting yourself up for sustainability.
mm,
You're not snacking in between, you have discrete meals, and you're starting to slide in what your go-to meals are here. What we typically recommend for most people, because we need to keep it enjoyable, is that you have your meals really dialed in. The first 1 to 2 meals of your day, very consistent. Meals that are not hard to digest. So something like that smoothie or like that. And then at
mm,
dinner, you can have far more variety. Dinner,
mm,
dinner, we teach different kinds of concepts, but this skill of reworking your nutrition from what it was, which is maybe like inconsistent breakfast, order out quite a bit, snack all the time, particularly on bad stuff, eat
mhm,
too late at night, not drink enough water, and probably have stimulants.
yeah,
What I just described here, to move that to something that is like clean, regimented, healthy, still tastes good, takes time.
mhm,
But what we found is you can do it in 30 days. But
yeah,
you can do it in 30 days if you really freaking focus on it. And we also have like one of our magic sauces of our why our program's so effective is we put everyone in community. So they're like, they get thrown in
mm,
on their day one
nice,
into the community of guys that are working on it. So they're seeing guys that are like 400 days down the line. They're seeing guys that are starting on the same day as them. And there's a lot of camaraderie to this, because look, this is a full team effort to
yeah,
really change these foundational habits of what you put in your mouth. And I'll tell you this, out of all the personal development bullshit that you could invest in, and I'm saying bullshit because it's helped me a lot in life, I'll take that back. But the personal development stuff, you improving what you put into your mouth on a consistent basis for the rest of your life is probably going to be the most impactful thing you experience. It's going
mhm,
to be either driving inflammation or health, energy, and vitality.
yeah,
It's either going to be putting you down these one or two different paths,
yeah.
and you can turn it around.
Yeah. So two things to that. First off, I love I love the phrase you use, creating behavioral hooks, because that is
Mm-hmm.
that is the foundation, at least in my understanding of behavioral science. Maybe because I haven't gone deeper yet, but my big understanding and what I try to promote is this idea of creating behavioral hooks. So, what do you
Sure.
mean? What do you mean by creating behavioral hooks? Because I'd love to dig into
Okay.
that.
Well, okay. How about this? As we're hooks are a behavioral hooker is something that's going to help it make us more likely that we take the next good behavior, or it leads us to this to what we want to do, what we set
Hmm.
out to do. And I think something like standardizing your first meal of the day is such a powerful behavioral hook in itself, and many other things, because one, you wake up, you have the first decision you need to make is you're nourishing your body with something you have completely dialed in. You don't need to make any choice about. Like, this is something that is like a ritualized hook
Hmm.
that just goes right in. You don't have to exert thinking and willpower, and it sets you up for more momentum as you move throughout the rest of the day. You
Yeah.
have a good healthy breakfast. Your likelihood of eating a healthy lunch is a lot better than if you mess something up, had a muffin, had a coffee, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it sets your momentum. It's like, each
Yeah.
new day, boom, it casts you out into your day with one or two different states. The other cool thing why you might also consider it a hook is, let's say we had a day with our nutrition that we just totally blew it, man.
Mhm.
I mean, it was a stressful day at work. We went to like the office party. We ate way too much shit that we shouldn't have. Our stomach fucking hurts. We have
Mhm.
indigestion again. We go to bed. The next day we wake up, one of two things can happen. We can change the momentum of what just happened last night and move it into a new positive direction with a
Mhm.
behavioral hook, or we can allow us to devolve into a, oh, I feel like shit, and boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Because this is exactly what negative momentum is. And it happens with people's health all the time.
Mhm.
You fall off the diet. If you fell off the diet for one day, but you hop back on, you're good.
Yeah.
But if you fall off the diet and then it like leads into this snowball of like complete crash and burn, which happens to so many people,
Mm.
like then you're just yo-yo dieting constantly, right? And maybe your plan was not sustainable from day one, so it was natural that you were going to crash.
Mhm.
But either way, this cycle you need to have something that can kick you out of that funk, because you best believe for the rest of your life there's going to be things that might throw a bump in your routine.
Mhm.
You could be going along and your parents get sick and they die, and that adds
Mhm.
a stress to your life. When these things happen, how do you have this kind of like just general daily health system that guides you along and makes it more likely that you eat better food?
Yeah.
That's it. So we're talking about behavioral psychology applied in the field of like, I don't know, practical nutrition,
Right.
right, to make
Right.
it more sustainable.
And you can also
uh
think about it like a domino effect, though, right? If you do something
yes,
good at the beginning of the day, then, oh, I'm going to do something else good. It kind of sets up everything else. So you
for
talked
sure.
about negative momentum. There's also positive momentum. Like if you make
Right,
a
both
good
sides.
decision, yes, exactly. It works both ways. So,
And we're always in one or the other, right, brother? And
mm,
so every new day we have the ability to shift ourselves a little bit more. And I'm not saying, and also that momentum I
hmm
think is also in different domains, because you can either have positive and negative momentum maybe in your work life or your relationship, or your health. But I
hmm
think the health one's so fascinating because it fundamentally changes the way your body feels
yeah,
and your like stress responses, so it affects everything
right.
else
Everything.
invariably.
Yeah,
Right? There's no one who doesn't feel like all the other areas of their lives are improved the second they lose 40 pounds and get off medications. We see it.
right.
Like guys join the program like, dude, I thought I was just here to lose 20 pounds. I didn't know I'd like completely revitalize my life. And I'm like, I love my wife again.
Yeah. Oh my
Like,
gosh, that's so
you know,
cool.
right?
So, and then the other thing I wanted to point out is you mentioned people are just so busy. So, if you want to think about how hard it is to create change, I want you to think
Yeah.
about all the different things you currently have going on in your life. The stress that you have with your work, the stress that you have with your family, the stress that you have with your individual relationships, the stress that you have trying to be a little bit healthier. And now I want you to have all of that stress and I want you to add something else on top of that. That's why it's so hard because
Yeah.
willpower is really limited. So
Yep.
introducing even little changes is hard to do because you've already got so much stuff going on.
Yes. Systems, though, systems give you the structure. If you commit to a system, you
Mm,
don't need to use willpower.
yeah.
It like almost like outsources that willpower into like a scaffolding that you can just always return
hmm
to. And then your only thing is continuing to try your best and also forgive when you slip up.
Yeah.
Try your best, forgive when you slip up.
Yeah.
And if you do this constantly, you better believe you're creating more positive momentum. And those slip ups become far less frequent. You actually
hmm
start to change your self identity at a very deep level as you be more consistent. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of
Well,
psychological rewiring.
we'll get into that too. But I like the you said every day is an opportunity. We had I had Kelly Starrett was one of my first guests on here, and he said you don't win at fitness. You
Mm.
don't have a
Yeah.
day. You don't do your workout and have a meal and then I win. I'm done. I won. I'm the champion. And you do it again the next day. You just do the best, or you don't win at marriage. You don't have like
Yeah.
I had a really great day
You
with my
do it.
wife. I won at marriage. No, you just like do the best you can every day. It's a new opportunity every day. So
It's almost like fitness is a verb, not a noun. I know it is a noun, but like, these things are verbs. They're to dos, they're
yes,
actions,
right,
they're ongoing. They're not discrete entities,
right,
unless
yes,
you did fitness for a day.
yeah. I mean, any good wedding talks about love as a verb, not as a noun, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about one thing. Let's go. What's another huge thing that guys don't understand when it comes to losing weight, creating healthy change?
All right, fine. Here's the other thing. I think the other thing we're here to manage is to keep the state of your nervous system is either going to be in a stress state or a more relaxed state. Optimal health is created by having what we call a parasympathetic nervous system dominance.
Mm,
We have the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches. Sympathetic gets keyed up when we are stressed, mentally or physically, and it's very helpful. It changes the metabolism tremendously to liberate sugar to get ready to get after it,
Hmm.
but it also puts more strain on the heart. We want to have this acutely when we play sports or do things, or maybe just get scared by our kids or something
Hmm.
like that. But what we actually want is parasympathetic dominance. And the reason I bring this up is because I would say prioritizing sleep and really restoring proper circadian rhythm is something that all men who want to live healthier need to start prioritizing almost as
Mm.
much as nutrition. And what I believe this means is like maybe keeping your stimulant use in check,
Hmm.
ideally cutting it down a little bit,
Yeah.
working on creating a more boundaries and healthier, easier, more relaxing way to go to bed. Which I mean, I think is probably like less phone and stimulation from screens, like wind that
Right.
shit down
Hmm.
and try to get to bed in time. Get the lights off, whatever. Like do something relaxing for yourself, whether it's taking a shower, whatnot. Sleeping better, but also getting out in the sunshine in the morning, getting
Yeah.
some sun on your skin and your eyes. The
Well,
best form of vitamin D, I know we supplement. It comes
e-
from the
easy for
what
you.
was produced in the skin.
Easy for you, Mr. Scottsdale.
Yeah, no, this is true. No, and point
uh,
absolute point. Okay, point absolutely made.
yeah.
Wherever you are, get some sun into your eyes.
Mm.
This is why I'll share this. Look, our human bodies, we tend to forget this because we kind of live in these houses now, and we're disconnected. We feel like we're disconnected. These bodies developed intimately with nature.
Mm.
And do you know what fucking runs nature? The sun, the light cycle, and the dark cycle.
Yeah.
And so it has a profound effect on our physiology during the light in the morning. When the light gets into our eyes, it activates our brain. The eyes have nerves that go straight into the brain. The
Mm.
eyes are almost like the brain. They're extension of the brain.
Yeah.
And so when we get light that goes and activates these areas, it actually produces serotonin, which
Hmm.
makes us feel good. What the hell are all these, like, what do we think we're prescribing millions of prescriptions of? Is these serotonin increasing drugs for people who have mood disorders? But like, look, what I'm trying to making a subtle point here as a good naturopath, that we have a natural pharmacy inside of us, but it gets activated when we live in accordance to, I would say, is natural law for our bodies, which means we should get some sun. I know it's not always possible, but at least some sun in your eyes can make you feel good.
Yeah.
And you start to improve also your breathing throughout the day. Start to get a more relaxed way of breathing. Start to breathe through your nose a little bit better. The breath has such a fundamental um, effect on your nervous system, probably more directly than almost anything that we really do have.
Mm.
You can hyperventilate yourself with breathings. You can relax yourself with deep breathings. When you are relaxed, you breathe deep. When you are stressed, you breathe. It works both ways.
Yeah.
And I think this is important because when we look at our bodies, we're typically thinking about like exercise output and foods that we put in, and
Hmm.
maybe a little bit of a sleep conversation. And what I'm suggesting is that there's also this idea of like your nervous system balance,
Mm.
your oxygen, like how you're breathing. Like breath is everything, man. You
Yeah.
could go without food for a while, but like the better humans breathe, and they're supposed to breathe through their nose,
Right.
is like ideal and for health. It is so important for health. It will help you live longer if you learn how to be a good breather, a
Yeah.
good relaxed breather. Certainly less than 10 respirations per minute. You get there and you're relaxed. You look at those heart rate variability things that will increase when your body's in a more parasympathetic state,
Hmm.
which ends up making you more creative, more relaxed, keeps the stress off your heart. So I think that's another thing. We haven't mentioned any high intensity exercises yet. I'm freaking telling you that if you
Right.
like wake up, drink water first thing in the morning, run through whatever meal schedule setup you have, get some sun and walk as much as you can.
Yeah.
Like that's if you did that. And don't get me wrong, I'm a guy who loves exercise. I would 100% prefer that you put exercise in there as well if that's something you're into. But I'm just saying that baseline plan of just drinking some more water, following the meal timing schedule setup, getting to bed on time, and getting some sun in your eyes in the morning,
Mm.
you're going to feel so much freaking better. We've literally helped guys lose 100 pounds without touching a dumbbell or a treadmill, literally just walking.
Wow.
So, and it's like we hear these stories, they're just absolutely true.
Yeah.
Like to lose weight, you do not have to exercise, but this human body does require daily activity.
Hmm.
And that is a difference. Exercise is vigorous. It improves your strength, your fitness, your stamina, your performance, has tons of cognitive benefits,
Hmm.
and it keeps your body like durable into old age. But the human body effectively can be fine with just gentle movements for long health. Lots of walking,
Hmm.
and I would say they're probably the fundamental core stretches that are presented in yoga
Yeah.
and in your programs. Like that's the truth.
Yeah, that was an awesome answer. So I want to reply to a couple of things. First off, the nasal breathing. The first episode we did on the Better Man podcast had Brian McKenzie, who is like the breath expert.
Mm,
I was fortunate enough to have him in my book, Yoga for Athletes. And that
nice.
episode, we just go so deep into the power of breathing through your nose and controlling your breathing and all of the things that come from that. Because it's not just, obviously it doesn't just have an effect on your physical well-being, but it also changes the way you start to think. You start to be more.
Those two things are completely tied,
Yeah.
right?
You start to be more aware of your thinking. You start to be more aware of just what am I doing right now? So,
But doesn't that bring you into a more of a meditative state?
oh
Is it
yeah.
what we're describing? The state of being an observer. You're aware,
Yeah.
aware that you're aware. You're not sucked into the mire of the matrix because we're attached to all these things. We're like running around like crazy. You're like, wait a second.
Right.
Like space,
Yeah.
awareness.
Yeah. So if
Yeah.
you're looking to get inspired about nasal breathing, go check out the first episode. And the second thing I wanted to say is this idea of parasympathetic nervous system dominant, and
Yeah.
and I wanted to talk about my most popular YouTube videos, which are sexual videos, videos on sexual
Mm-hmm.
health. You
Good
know,
point.
and people. I think people come into this thinking, oh, I got to get stronger. I gotta. If I just get stronger, if I get a stronger core, if I get stronger hips, then I'm gonna get a stronger erection, and I'm gonna have
Yeah.
more sex and more sexual vitality. And I'm like, yeah, that's like maybe 1/3 of it, but the other part of it is
Mm-hmm.
just slowing the fuck down and
Yeah.
breathing and
Yeah.
relieving stress and getting out
Yeah.
of your fight, flight, freeze
Yeah.
state, and
Yep.
just getting out of that sympathetic nervous state.
For
So
sure. And like, oh, I want to add one more thing to that.
please do.
The nervous system controls the tone of the blood vessels, how relaxed or how constricted they are. That's its job basically. And the breath is the air that comes into the lungs, and then the heart's job is to pump blood up so it like runs right through the lungs and sucks in all this oxygen and then shoot it through the rest of the body. So it's all connected,
Hmm.
right? This breath is giving us the oxygen, and when it's calm, the heart is relaxed, shooting blood, oxygenated blood beautifully through the system without the stress and strain that we get from constriction, sympathetic tone, higher blood pressures.
Mm.
And that's going to keep you alive for a long ass time, because the things that kill people are cancer and heart disease,
Hmm.
and other things too. But primarily, these are the things that we're seeing: heart disease being vastly the number one, cancer being largely because we do a lot of things to not take care of our immune system.
Hmm.
And we also have a lot of chemicals and bullshit and other things that are triggering all sorts of different kinds of cancers,
Hmm.
because we've progressed as a society and there's a lot of crazy stuff out there right now.
Yeah.
Um,
There's also a lot of I've read a couple interesting books on cancer, tying it into suppression of certain emotions and behaviors. Like if you're
sure,
doing
right?
too much for other people and not listening to yourself, is there Western backed data behind this? Probably not. But it's interesting theories, and I'm kind of interested to see what the
Yeah.
science will tell us when they start to do this actual studies, at
I'll be
least
honestly, I'm all,
standards
dude.
by
I'm all
our.
in. You heard it here.
Yeah.
I buy it,
You're there.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm already there. But like,
Yeah.
man,
It's pretty cool. All right, give me one more thing. And if it so happens to be identity change, fantastic. I'll just ask you the next question after that. But what's one more thing that goes into losing weight, living a healthy lifestyle that guys wouldn't expect?
all right. Well, I think that it's really good in terms of exercise to get, and I want to talk about exercise for a second because I think that's to round this out. I think it's really good for guys to target to get 2 to 3 like vigorous exercises sessions in per week,
Hmm.
like kind of like at, that's a really good target. You certainly can do more if you're loving it and you were like an everyday, and that's kicking ass.
Hmm.
But if you're not, I think a couple pulses of vigorous high intensity exercise unlocks the fountain of youth in our genetic code, in our mitochondria, and you can also get a lot of strength and cardio work all in one. So I think that's something that's really powerful about your kinds of workouts, because your workouts hit on 3 things. They hit on, like, I mean, this is how I'll describe it, but they hit on strength
Hmm.
in the poses. They hit on mobility and basically flexibility and a proper alignment and postural stuff. Number two. And number three, I think as it goes longer, they become more cardiovascular as you're creating more contractions in
Mhm.
the big thigh muscles and heat is building in the body.
Mhm.
Like, and combining those things into one workout, very efficient. I recommend it. Which might be different than how I certainly trained when I was a bodybuilder, where you'd obviously have discrete periods of strength training and discrete periods of cardio,
Yeah.
and they'd be two separate things. And not to say that you can't still do cardio days on your own, because I'll mention that. I think that's a very fantastic idea. But we do with these Fit Father workouts is we combine, we do some kettlebell. You get a pair of kettlebells or dumbbells. You can use both. And we combine the foundational moves that people need to be strong in
Mhm.
as they age, which is like swinging and activating the hips. Like, so swings for starters, right? Kettlebell swings, dumbbell swings, get those glutes firing, get the core engaged in sync with the glutes as they fire. Obviously important. Also burns a lot of calories. So super solid.
Mhm.
Right up into rack squats. I mean, come on, this is a front loaded squat. It works in so many parts of your body. Overhead pressing, rows, and push ups.
Mm.
And you do this, you've activated every plane of the body with load, but lighter load, because as you're starting to train and you're starting to
Mhm.
lose weight, it's important to use the right amount of loads to build up the connective tissue strength as you go. And
Mhm.
also maybe if you have old injuries, it's easier to lift lighter sometimes.
Yeah.
But anyways, you do these workouts a couple times per week. Exercise does not have to take a lot of time. Like,
Mhm.
legit, you could do these workouts in 30 to 45 minutes, 3 times per week. And you're telling me you're busy, and I understand you are, but I feel like everyone who sincerely wants to lose weight can probably find 30 or 45 minutes 3 times per week in their life to get this in, or
Yeah.
something like this.
Right. And when you find that you don't have the mobility to do these exercises, you go do some
You
manful
can,
yoga to help supplement.
yes, 100%. Well, I mean, what I would do on my off days between these two pulse ones, let's say we did two of these types of
Yeah.
hard workouts per week, maybe on Monday and maybe on Thursday or Friday. In between, I'd be doing manful yoga
Mhm.
consistently. And if I'm feeling very sore, maybe more one of the more restorative sessions.
Yeah.
And I'd be doing cardio. Like, I think as you age, like low intensity cardio has its place for overall health, longevity, well
Mhm.
being. Not necessarily long, prolonged, like marathon running triathlons.
Yeah.
Like, that actually can damage the heart. So much cardiovascular
Mhm.
output and stress. The heart enlarge is not ideal. But like low, gentle cardiovascular activity will keep you healthy into old age. So what I recommend, fall in love with walking,
Yeah.
and ideally fall in love with walking outside, because this would probably be like my third thing I wanted to actually add,
Mm.
where I think is a huge misconception, or third or fourth. People need to get back to spending more time in nature.
Yeah.
Like, we need to breathe fresh air, and we
Mhm.
get it from the outside. We need to be near trees and grass and all these things. It's like, it's where our species came from, and we feel good. And I also want to seriously urge everyone here who hasn't, is look into the research on earthing and grounding.
Mhm.
What they found is when you put your feet on the fucking ground, and there's a great book by a guy named Clint Ober on this. The Earth has a negative electronic charge. It
Mhm.
has electrons floating through. It's full of metals. It gets struck by lightning. There's electromagnetic like radiation and all outside. And when we connect our bodies to this, it reduces inflammation. The Tour de France, Team USA, back when Lance Armstrong was all doing that, they used earthing mats in between all of the times when they were doing it, because it improves recovery and wound healing time and all this stuff. It reduces inflammation. We're talked so much about reducing inflammation from foods
Mhm.
and from supplements. We're taking curcumin, we're doing our fish oils, we're trying to avoid inflammatory foods. And I think that's super important. You don't want to put inflammatory stuff into the body.
Mm.
But he also, then we're like, let's take a bunch of antioxidants and stuff like this to like neutralize free radicals. And what I'm suggesting is, yes, have your fruits and vegetables, these colorful things that you happen to tolerate well, good for your health. But we can also get inflammatory benefits from just being with the earth. And even if you don't even go there, even if you're not the kind of person to take your shoes off or whatever, I'd
Mhm.
urge you to just breathe some fresh air, walk outside, feel the sun, and find your peace. Like, there's so much research on, you just take a walk, your blood pressure goes
Yeah.
down, your sympathetic nervous system tone goes down, your circulation improves for many hours after the fact. Like,
Mhm.
who's not happier by taking a beautiful nature walk? Like,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. So I wanna add one quick point to that, and then I wanna shift gears a little bit and ask questions about I want to push at your squishiness, so to speak.
yeah,
So, but I do want to say taking your shoes off, just because I'm assuming we have a lot of people who do manful yoga listening to this podcast. So I get
yeah.
a lot of questions about people who have feet pain when they're doing certain exercises. Guys, if you're wearing shoes all day, that's your answer. Like the reason why your feet
Yeah.
hurts because you're wearing shoes all day. So get your shoes off, take them off at your desk if you have to be at a desk. Move your feet, bring your toes toward your shins, point your toes, do some
Yeah.
yoga poses that force you to actually move your feet. And that's going to help out with foot pain. But you got to be comfortable with barefoot. It's just, you got to work toward that somehow. All right. So I wanted to ask you, so you were 9 when your father passed. You grew up. Obviously, your mom did a fantastic job, um, and I just want to know you know, what did you notice to be different in your experience growing up with just your mom, and how did that change who you are today?
I think it made me very self-directed. Like I even before my dad passed, I have early memories. I've always been someone who liked to improve.
Mm,
Like I just remember like wanting to be faster when I was younger and like on recess going and practicing my sprints. I just think it was been a part of a drive that I had in me. And I think after my dad passed, it was like you lose a lot of guidance.
mm,
You lose there's this void that's almost created in terms of what a father figure oftentimes represents for young kids, which is supposed like maybe some guidance and some kind of protection, some this is a direction, like I got you. If it's good parenting, this is what I'm trying to describe.
mm-hmm,
And for me, I think in that my mom stepped up tremendously to fill a lot of that, but she's also got 2 kids, recently widowed. Like, man, she was scraping it together, and
wow.
she's so much better for it. I think that getting confident at something by getting passionate about something, which was at first, trying to get stronger, and the fact that I could take that energy that I was feeling and direct it into something specific. Yeah, I'd say that's the answer. Paired with the fact that I believe I was a pretty self-directed being from an earlier age than that,
Mm,
and I really just kind of like went for it. And I think there was a switch in high school. I remember when I was writing my college admissions essay, I wrote about how the passing of my dad was the best thing that ever happened to me. And that's where I'd gotten my mentality to in the course of those, maybe let's say like 8 years, because I started to change the way I was thinking about it, because it was like I started to perceive it as like possibilities, like power, like understanding, like new future, like almost like his life in many ways was like a gift to me,
mm,
to bring me into this new life.
yeah. I mean, you just had so
Yeah.
many.
And
That was such a, you talk about being the best thing that ever happened to you, but obviously that was a tragedy that happened.
right.
um and then you also, your body was destroyed in the skiing accident, so you've had multiple of these
Those are the two big ones.
extremely
Yeah.
powerful incidents that happened.
Yes.
And I'm just, I'm thinking to myself, I'm asking this rhetorical question: did you think that you needed those experiences to be where you are today? Would you have gotten here, maybe you would have gotten here a few years later, or like, what do
Yeah. I
you
mean, there
what
were
do you
two
think?
two of the most formative inflection points, like for sure. Like, did I need the dad experience? I don't think I had a choice. I think this
Yeah,
was like my life path. We all had this our life path that we were set on. Like, I was born into a family that was kind of in many ways like destined that his dad would get cancer and he would die.
yeah,
And so that's like almost like I'm the arrow. That shit's loaded fire.
mm,
I'm sailing. Did I need the leg thing? I created the leg thing
mm.
for myself. And here's what I mean by that. That day that I was skiing with my buddy Barrick, earlier in the
How
day,
how old were you?
20, I was at the tail end of medical school, sometime in my late 20s,
Okay.
20, yeah, like late 20s. So mid late 20s. I am flying around this carve on this hill, and I kind of launch off the normal course of this ski run and kind of fall into a mogul field, and I hit hard, and I kind of just like catch myself, and I was like, oh shit, that could have been really bad. So I almost had a near crash, and and uh hamstring my hamstring was a little bit tweaked from that, and I was like, I should probably slow it down. This was my, like, I truly feel in many ways that I was gifted this warning sign. in many ways. So when I look back, like I had a warning, I had a strong intuition, but this is where my ego and my idea of like an invincible, hard charging young man, nothing can go wrong, just
Mm,
fucking get after it, created the situation that I had 100% warning for.
mm.
So I don't know. I mean, it kind of feels like in many ways, like I had an opportunity in that first moment to slow down. And I definitely wouldn't have gone through everything I did. I chose it, but I also feel like in many ways, although it's been like destructive physically, it's been the most spiritually liberating experience of my life, and I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah,
Take my leg.
yeah, yeah. By the way, I asked Doctor A if he plans on going skiing again, and he said absolutely. So there was he's still going to go skiing. In case you're wondering, he is.
I have gone twice, and I didn't ski as fast.
And you did the bunny hill.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it. So you became a dad recently. Congratulations! I was able to.
Thank you.
I was able to see you the like 5 days after you had your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Was
awesome.
it?
I think yeah,
I think it was. I saw. No, I saw you before.
it was. I saw you before. I thought I saw you. I'm pretty
Oh
sure I
no,
saw
then
you
you saw me
after.
5 days afterwards in
Right.
Arizona. Yes, you're
Yeah.
totally correct. Yeah, you did.
Yeah. And that was yeah. And you told me sorry, I'm revealing that you're a. I was gonna say a crybaby, and now I'm saying no, Dean.
No,
That's
dude,
not what this is
I
anymore.
cried. I cried through.
You had the emotional vulnerability. You had the emotional capability to experience the moment. I say my subconscious
I know what you're
brain
saying.
says crybaby because I'm just jealous that I can't have. I'm not open enough to do that. I wasn't open enough to feel that way. But
It's the beauty of every moment, brother. That's what you're referring to.
mm,
That's what I cried about.
yeah.
On the moment my daughter was born, my wife Paige decided to do an unmedicated birth run by midwives.
Oh wow.
So we're in this room. My wife is in a runner's lunge on the bed, screaming, like hulking down, and this baby's about to shoot out of her, and it shoots out, and there is blood everywhere. Like I grabbed the baby kind of, and I'm just, it was like it was the most beautiful shell shock of my entire life, and I just burst out crying,
Wow.
just at the beauty of creation,
Yeah.
of new life, of how horribly gory it is, which makes it hilarious. It's just like its life is messy. We're shooting out this placenta. There's blood everywhere. Baby's covered in shit. There's crying. We got this
Yeah.
cord around the neck. It's
Oh gosh.
amazing. And I just well if I don't want it to be any different than it is, I see the beauty in it.
Mm.
And
Like
I want to say that again because I think that's true. If I don't
I
want it
was
to
gonna
be
yeah.
any different than it is, I see the beauty in it. And I think we walk around many times and being create attachments to other perceptions that things should be differently than they are or different than they are.
Yeah.
And that creates the separation because now there is a subject who judges and the object that is, and it's made a normative judgment, but it's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
It's just something that we have had this immediate response to. But like when that starts to soften through all these practices we talked about, then just
Mm.
things are beautiful.
Yeah.
Like it just the expression of all of it. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah. That's awesome. So to see the beauty in things, see them for what they are.
Yeah. Yes. For sure. And not want them to be any different. Because it's
And
the
not want
part
them to be
that
any.
it is a part of you that wants it to be different. That's the
Mm.
problem, not the
That's
thing.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a habit of the mind.
Yeah.
That's all it is, because it can go away. And when it does, you also lose a lot of that mental chatter because that
Mm.
mental chatter is constantly going around, like
Mental.
evaluating whether or not
Jeez.
things are like liked or not. Like, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. No, the mental chatter is a friend of mine. I know him very well. Or her. I don't know if it's a has a gender. I don't. It might. I haven't asked it what its pronouns are, so I don't know.
I don't recommend continuing to talk to it.
No, yeah, I don't want to get to know it better. All right, I have one more question, then I want to go on to my part two of this. So, beyond your goals of Fit Father Project, with obviously helping dads and men become healthier, what is the grander vision? Obviously, health is, this is the reason why I started the Better Man podcast, because Manful Yoga is a great vehicle for helping people with their physical health,
Yeah.
with their starting to have the awareness to look into their mental health as well. But beyond improving physical well-being, what's the vision? What do you want to see adopted by more men, by more dads?
Okay. Well, the vision that I have, and the level of clarity I have around it right now, is that we have the Fit Father project and we have the Fit Mother project. And what we have is a vehicle for helping transform people and then bring them into community.
Mm,
And I think the community thing is what's so exciting about, for me, it's my favorite part about our business. Like, our programs are great and it's so cool to see someone make a transformation. But what's really meaningful is when they are kind of now a part of, like, we call it the Fit Father Brotherhood or the Fit Mother Sisterhood. And I think community is going to be continue to be so, so important into the future when we're basically around people with shared values who are positive, and we're all like working on doing something, which in our case is very pure, helping
mm,
each other live healthier and be encouraged
yeah.
throughout the journey of it. And what I see is amazing is starting to empower those communities much more to go do good.
Mm,
Because when we're healthy and we're full of energy, naturally what flows out of us, this energy, is that of service. Like,
mm,
like you can only consume so much. Like, at a certain point you get indigestion. And I mean, like, literally, mentally, spiritually, digestively, whatever. Consume, consume, consume enough. There's a certain point where it becomes pathological, and it is to be realized. We
hmm,
have energy we serve. So our thought is this: like, let's start financially backing our community members to go do good out in the world, and actually set up like percentages of our revenues to basically fund this whole thing.
mm,
And we'll see what happens. We grow this, and I think it'd be really amazing. I have a vision of many fit fathers and fit mothers all around the world, like creating change in their communities and being a part of something broader. I'd like to bring, more health to households. I mean, generally that is, I believe it's through the parents at this point. I mean, kids don't have the ability to make real food decisions or like even the cognitive capacity. In most cases, there are some people in high school that take charge of it, but most cases under 18, people have no idea how to eat, what to eat. So like
right.
helping healthier families and parents is going to make sure that we're also doing some preventative medicine, not just like triage, so
Yeah.
yeah. And I'll stop there, but I
Yeah.
think it's centered around these companies right now. I'm grateful to be at the helm of them. Didn't expect it to be exact anything like it really is, and
Wow.
we'll see where it goes.
That's really cool. That's awesome to hear. As a as a business owner, I commend you on creating that. That's really cool.
Thanks. I kind of feel like it's being created through me, which is interesting. It's not something like I necessarily, and this is what I'll say. As I've gone through one of the biggest changes in my personality from my 20s to my 30s after like the spiritual process with my leg and all
Mm,
that stuff, is that I run my life based off of like intuition and feeling far more than logic and thinking. And I
mm,
have the capacity to do both, and I've
mm,
done it a lot. But a lot of things I just try to like go off of like intuition, but only because I feel that at least with myself, with my stand to myself, I've purified my heart. I know that I'm working towards truth and greater good. And I know that the purity of like my feeling is there.
yeah.
And so by that case, I can fully trust my intention. And it came down to like going through a process of like learning to tell the truth and be honest all the time, to like forgive like past shit that I might be holding on to about myself. You do this stuff, I believe your intuition becomes powerful, and you don't have to spend as much time like making life as complicated. There's like a
Yeah.
flow that can happen. Personal philosophy,
Yeah.
I'm speaking from my direct experience,
No,
seems true to me though.
that resonates a lot with me. I'll say this last part, but I for a while, I think there was a maybe like a 2 or 3 year period where I just kind of grew really. I just didn't believe in the self development movement. And I was like, I've read all these books. I've read all these books. There's no new ideas. People take the same ideas and put them into different contexts. There's nothing new.
For sure.
And why am I still why do I still feel the way that I feel? Why am I angry? Why do I have shame? Why do I not feel the way that I want to feel? I've been doing all these things to be more successful, to be more fit, to try and be a better husband, and yet I'm still like, why am I not where I want to be? And it kind of and my answer to that was because all the logic in the world doesn't matter if it doesn't translate into your emotional brain.
Sure.
And so what you said with moving away from logic and being able to
Into feeling. It's
into
it's both
feeling.
like it's logic and from thinking to feeling. Two dimensions of our experience. Like, and they're both very much there, and I think they both have their use cases. Um, like feeling kind of like has that bit of acceptance too. It's like there's thinking is either creation or it's like analyzing or cutting something into like understanding. Feeling in a way is just kind of like being with what is. That's either something perhaps that's emerged, like that feeling of shame or guilt or whatever that was,
Mm,
or just feeling like what exactly this pain is or what this direct experience right now is.
mm,
So feeling, I think, is slightly closer to the experience of just straight being than thinking is. Thinking has more activity to it. We
yeah,
need the activity. We deploy it tactfully, but then there's this other time where you can go into the peaceful experience of being, and you don't need to just only live one dimensionally through faculty of thinking.
yeah.
It was really cool. I think there was some kind of interview with like Eckhart Tolle. He wrote this book, The Power of Now.
Yes.
And he was there on some kind of like podcaster thing I saw with like David Blaine, or it
Mm,
was somebody talking about how David Blaine could hold his breath underwater for 10 minutes.
mm,
And Eckhart Tolle retorts, "That's amazing. I definitely can't do that, but I cannot think for 10 minutes." And I was like, wow,
dang.
like, I mean, it was
Flex.
just like, it was just, no, it was just a cool answer. It's just a cool
Yeah.
answer that how many people, can say they've explored the dimensions of their the mind or just the ability to have that kind of peace, and the answer is we're very busy. Things are constantly drawing us outside in terms of our due. We got to put food in our kids' mouths, we got to
Mm,
grow our businesses, we got to pay the bills, like the motion of the doing, a big part of why what we're here to do, right? We got it, the cycle moves. But the dimension of I feel like the deeper dimensions that you could experience all along the way, of the peace and the feeling can be there as well. And I think if you do both, then you have a long, happy, productive, like, and I would say like blessed life
yeah.
that has that kind of energy behind it.
Yeah. Well, that feels good to me. I was gonna say that makes sense to me, but I thought I should say it feels
It
good
can be, it can make
instead.
sense and feel good.
It does, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
cool.
both.
Both.
All right. Part 2. What do you think is one habit, a belief, or a mindset that has helped you the most in terms of your overall happiness?
And the first thing was
A habit.
realizing that
Oh, sorry.
I am not a belief. The belief is I am not a victim of anything.
Mm,
Like that then, and I mean, I went to this lecture in college when I was studying psychology, and it was about like the number one trait that was correlated with happiness. It was some visiting professor from Harvard or some crap like that, and they said it was self-agency. How much you feel like you are the creator and not that the effect of things that happen in your life.
mm,
That's what makes people happy. And I was like, shit, okay. Like that seems like I'm a kind of simple guy in the sense that I want like what really moves the needle and like let me focus on that one thing and get after it. So I'm like started to build more self-agency about where do I feel like I'm a victim in my life or what's not out of control. And listen, there's
mm.
circumstances that happen. It could be broken leg, it could be brain cancer, it can be whatever. It could be like that Viktor Frankl Man's Search for Meaning, kind of he's in the
Yeah.
Auschwitz concentration camp. Like that's
Powerful
outside of
book.
his circumstance, but that's outside of his circumstance, right? He's there. It's not like he has that agency, but his relationship to we always have agency. So I think that realization, and then the second realization of happiness was I think a more deeper spiritual one is just being with what is,
Mm,
like no rejection of what is. Once you've like as you've purified your heart, and quite frankly, the process of accepting what is purifies your heart too. And when I mean purifies your heart, I'm talking about anything that we feel like we're holding on to that doesn't feel like, I don't know, any of that shit that like where we feel like that we still need to work on.
and if you could just clarify for me what were the practices, just really quickly sum them up. I think we already talked about them, but sum up the practices that helped you
I would say
get
write
to that.
yeah. First off, I think be honest with them. Like maybe write them down, describe them as best as you can. If they are discrete, they're not always discrete. They could just be, a general sense of feeling, but oftentimes they have triggering or precipitating events or something that makes them such a deep impression in the mind. So getting clear on what they are.
Mm,
And I think being with each of them without rejection. Like you must probably spend time. You can almost heal them each as friends. You could approach if they are discrete situations like this, not just general feeling. Um, this is my approach. I wouldn't even say this is necessarily like psychological advice, but I don't see why someone wouldn't try to do this in their own experience, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think sit with each of them, see them, feel what arises. There oftentimes is like an emotional release. I think I've had probably since I've gone through the spiritual process, I don't know, maybe call it like maybe five big cries, like huge emotional releases that have happened on many different times over the course of several years. But like
Yeah.
when you have, and this is just maybe my own personal experience, they're rare, like they have been rare for me in the past. But when you have a big cry or something that truly moves you to such a deep level, or something that you feel like you finally released, like those are powerful things to go with. I think the crying is the body's way of releasing stored emotion and energy, like in that. And being able to feel deeply into whatever it is doesn't always have to be a sad cry. I think of my five big cries, three of them were cries of absolute joy and ecstasy
Mm.
at like the beauty of existence.
Wow.
And maybe that sounds a little existential, but um, yeah, I think is this not all kind of like the practice of observing the mind and observing the activity of consciousness itself? I know we probably took this whole thing into way more left field than just like weight loss. And I do apologize if that is the case. And if someone's listening to this like this, dude, I like this guy, but now this has gone to complete bullshit land. I'm just here to share the truth of my experience, and all of my health and fitness information stands as valid, regardless of if you're into any of this.
Thank you for the disclaimer. Um,
Yeah.
Totally unnecessary, but I think anyways. Um, what's one thing you do for your health that you think is overlooked or undervalued by others?
Um, uh, Hydration and easy to digest foods first thing in the morning.
Hmm.
So I think one thing is like
What do you eat for breakfast?
huge quality of like when I get up, you must rehydrate with the highest quality water you can get your hold of. Which means you can clean and pure water, maybe has some minerals as well added in there, but just some good water. Get a lot of it. It should be refreshing and nourishing for your body. We need hydration first, and it actually starts to gently wake up the GI tract. Especially if you drink the water as like a bolus and you actually like really kind of chug it, it stretches your stomach a little bit, which actually causes the colon with this something called the gastrocolic reflex to start moving poop through the tube.
Hmm.
For good human health, you want stuff moving through the tube. So the water. And then I think I'm a huge proponent, and I know we don't exactly always do this in our programs, but having something that's easy to digest first meal in the day. And I think this could be some kind of shaker smoothie, which is blended, so it's easy to digest. It
Mm-hmm.
gives you a lot of like rich in micronutrients.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you want that day: rich in something that's rich in micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, something that's going to keep your blood sugar level stable. It has some healthy fats and some protein, and maybe it also has some other good things like fruits, berries, whatever you might want to put in there.
Mm-hmm.
But something like that, or actual fresh fruit, a mono fruit meal, one type of fruit, eat it, because ultimately this stuff wakes up your GI tract so phenomenally. Is that a smoothie right there?
Dude,
There you
smoothie
go.
is my superpower. I'm
Okay,
serious.
there you go. So smoothies there, but I don't want people to sleep on a mono fruit meal. One type of fruit, have it. Fruit wakes up the human digestive tract incredibly well. And I know there's so much debate out right now about what humans should eat.
Mm.
Like, are we carnivores? Do we have the teeth and the dentature of herbivores?
Right.
Like, from what I've read and where I fall in the camp is I think humans are primarily frugivores. I think we eat a lot of fruit. I think we can not fruit, nuts, and I mean that's just not to say that we can't do meats as
Mm-hmm.
well, but I do think fruit should be a big part of a human diet. And and if you can do it by itself first thing in the morning, it'll help you get a really good bowel movement.
Mm.
And I think getting a good poop in the morning and early throughout the day is a very overlooked part of human health. If you do not have a healthy digestive system, one that doesn't feel gassed and bloated, and one that regularly moves shit through you,
Mm.
then you do not have optimal health. And it's challenging. There's a lot of people that have immune disorders that
Mm.
inflame the GI tract. Many foods are inflammatory, but yeah, if you want to live as long as possible, you got to get your GI tract right. There's
Yeah.
many ways to do that. There's lots of people who are talking about how to do that. Just want to like maybe emphasize that as a point,
Mm-hmm.
which also comes down to finding your regular go-to foods like that work for you, the
Yeah.
ones that you like, the ones that are delicious, the ones that your body feels good on, and then just like really just get consistent with those. And
Yeah.
then for dinner, that's where we like to have a little more play. dude, you're gonna order takeout on occasion. Like, sure, Uber Eats some food in. Like, you're on a weight loss plan, but once in a while, you have your ability, and you can try to make it healthier. And we actually plan in what we call them free meals, not cheat meals, because cheat meals creates the frame that you're doing
Right.
something bad. Free
Hmm.
meal implies the idea is like you have a pre-planned meal, and guess what happens? Guys go have a free meal for dinner. They love it. They crush it. Next day, they feel like shit. It's like, dude, I can't believe I feel this bad after eating 3 pieces of pizza and two
Right.
beers. Like, do I really want to do this again?
Yeah.
And then 7 days later, they have the next free meal, and maybe they make a different choice, or maybe they don't. But it's so cool that actually helps train you. It's like a carrot and a stick, where the what used to be what you wanted ends up being the stick once you clean up your body, like the
Yeah.
indigestion you feel after bad meals, but also sometimes just the fact that you enjoyed it. It's like, dude, I had a couple burgers last night. Definitely have a few extra pounds. I'm going to drink some more water. I'm going to go sweat, and I'm going to get back on it. And, your weight will normalize. It's not like you get 3 pounds of fat overnight from a free meal. You probably don't even gain much of any fat
Right.
from just 1 calorie spike like that.
Yeah. Man, I want to avoid. I want to respond to some of those things, but I want. The only thing I'll say is, my wife definitely does not is not a fan of my morning poops, because it means that, because while we're trying to take care of Declan, I'm like, all right, gotta go. She's like, ah.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'll just tell
I'm
her.
glad. I'm glad you got a nice morning poop though. That's good.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I'm really happy for you.
I'll just
Congratulations,
thank
bro.
you. Yeah. I'll just have to tell her, like, it's really important. Dr. A says so. Um,
100%.
yeah. Do you have a set time for a regular stress relief activity, and what do you do?
Yeah, I would say yes. I'd say before I had put anything in my stomach for the day, I meditate,
Mm,
and that's in the morning. And I think it's very helpful for me to meditate on an empty stomach when the body is digesting, and you can feel the gurgling, and like the system is more active.
hmm.
It's your meditation is a lot less effective
What do
when
you
you've just had some water.
what type
Yeah.
of meditation do you do?
Well, I have a like this is my office right here, and this room behind me with like the TRX band
Yeah.
stuff is a small room that has like a meditation chair, a bookshelf, and like a little massage table. I go to that chair and I sit on that chair. It's like a straight back chair. You want to sit with a straight back spine. I've done a lot of meditating, like thousands and thousands and thousands of hours. So I would say that the one thing that is really true is if you want to get deeper into meditation, you sit with a straight spine. That could be in a chair, but it also could be in a more traditional meditation posture with legs crossed, whatever. But
Mhm.
spine is straight in alignment, everything's kind of stacked, and then you just start to observe your breath. Like the coolest thing about the breath is just that you don't. It's just there, no matter like without conscious control, it's going to go. And if you can just be with the breath, that starts to get the mind into a meditative state. And then there's some other things that you begin to explore about, using different, maybe a sound or some kind of mantra or something to focus on as you meditate too, to concentrate the mind. Those are also valuable. But I think the key really is just the second you're sitting with that straight spine, um, you start to observe the breath and just
Mm,
feel that, and then the mind is going to be active throughout there, and just return it to the breath. And you practice that. It sometimes can be hard for some people at first. Some
mhm.
people can slide right into a meditative state. It sets your entire mind, body, spirit up for a productive day. I'll then go have a breakfast that I enjoy and get to work, and get some sun in the morning too, sometime around that time, maybe when I'm having the breakfast.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say
Okay.
that'd probably be the answer. And I also think going outside a little bit, like in between work blocks, I'll go outside, put my feet on the grass, take my baby out there, put her in
Yeah.
the sun for a second, you know.
And then take her out promptly, because you can't keep a baby in the sun for that long. Yeah, I have
This is for
photos of
sure.
me like holding up my 5.5 pound child. Like, here,
Yeah.
have some sun. Okay, that's enough.
Yeah, exactly. Their
um,
skin is so sensitive.
yeah. Do you regularly reflect or analyze yourself? Like, do you sit down once a quarter or once a week and think about what you could do better, what's going on that's good?
I used to. I did for maybe 10 years. And those were probably 10 of the most productive years of my life, I would say,
Mm,
while I was really building the business, going through medical school. Um, Now, I would say no.
mm,
And it's not to say I don't reflect, but it's not as it's a constant reflection of kind of like being itself. Um, I don't have as much of a quarterly regimentation anymore, where I definitely used to have like quarterly meetings,
oh, wow.
do a life wheel, reflect on actions, kind of these things.
Yeah.
I just felt like the same thing that applies to nutrition. If you can just put some simple structure in your life like that, it's the skeleton for you taking consistent right action,
Yeah.
and that's what gives results: consistent right actions in that
Yeah.
direction.
Well,
Not perfect,
it
just
sounds like you're
consistent.
doing that stuff on a daily basis anyways,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. It's more flow. It's like in the moment for that as well. And I'm really just in, but like, and also trying to make those like gaps between feedback of like of when I feel like things are out of alignment, make those very small. Like
Mm,
try not to do like no big drifts anymore
yeah.
into crazy town. Less just drifts to crazy town.
Yeah, that'd be, that's a solid goal. What's the,
Yeah, for sure.
what's the most stressful part of your day-to-day life?
At at present, still working on healing my knee. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just like I wouldn't call it necessarily stressful. It's kind of physically stressful. Just like having like an inflamed knee. I still have one more surgery to get rod and screws out of this leg, and I also it's kind of unfortunate, but like I have a piece of bone, like a jagged piece of bone. It's about an inch long. It's sticking out of the side of my femur, right into my quad and my hamstring. So every time I stand, it like stabs the leg. So it's an artifact
Oh
from the
my
last
gosh.
surgery. We'll shave that shit down. So
Wow.
I'd say that right now. It's been kind of crazy, just going with the leg stuff and also having the newborn. But my wife and I just laugh all the time. We just look at us like we're on the couch with the newborn. I got the brace on the leg and the crutch, and we're just kind of loving it.
That's great. I mean, that's great that you can laugh at it now. I think my wife
And,
and I
and
will
I
laugh at
trust
it
and I
later.
trust that it'll heal. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but while you're in it, you're like, oh God, we're dying. Um, all right. So, last big question here. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing men and their well-being right now?
Man,
You get one.
yeah, no kidding. What a question. Normally pretty quick to talk. Hmm,
Well, your answer is going to be super dramatic if that helps.
it's got to
If
be.
that helps any.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll say like it's probably the same answer as what's plagued men through all time, and it's probably what I would call spiritual disconnection.
Hmm.
And what I mean about that is disconnection from living in accordance to the natural laws that govern our bodies, disconnection with the interior of our being, these deep feelings, emotions, desires. It's disconnection from our experience of higher power, God, source, whatever. And I guess I don't feel like I want to put this on people like you have to believe or see things the way I do, but I would suppose that would always be the answer. That would be the answer today. It would be the answer many years ago. What drives uh, the either kind of greed, oppression, anger, shame, violence, then other than um, these deep hurts that we're continuing to play out in this constant human drama? It's taken on new forms. There'll be new regimes, rise and fall of countries, same human drama kind of unfolding. And I think that's because imagine a world where we did have men that were strong, aligned, pure of heart, like and that was what was guiding families and in communities. Like the world would effectively be a very different place.
Hmm.
It would have to. It'd be coming from a very different soil than what we have now, which is take scarcity, maximize for self gain, and these are natural impulses that obviously have settled in deep into culture and the minds of people. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I think that's kind of
Yeah.
why we're here,
Well,
individually, collectively.
your answer didn't disappoint. Um,
Okay, cool.
the Yeah, I mean, you answered a lot of that. There was a lot of answers in one thing. That was a it's a great point. Um, all right, what's the best way for people to learn more about what you do, to check out the Fit Father project, to learn more about everything there
Yeah.
is about we just talked?
Okay. Well, I'll share this. Like this conversation went really deep personally and maybe in my own philosophy. And I appreciate you like having the space for us to have this. Didn't expect to have this type of conversation.
Mm,
The conversations that I mostly have and pretty much all that's on our YouTube channel and our websites is health and fitness straight up,
mhm.
like mix of the research, how to's, workouts, nutrition advice, like the more granular stuff that's like on the health side. Fit Father Project, you can Google that. You can type in fitfatherproject.com in the domain. You can also check us out on YouTube. I would recommend the website. We have a cool free meal plan and free workout that's like basically gives you like our starting sauce and you can see what we're
Mhm.
all about. And we also have a cool podcast. So if you want to get inspired by guys that were like losing a ton of weight and getting fired up, like we got a podcast there as well. So just search Fit Father Project wherever you like to check stuff out, and we'll pop up.
Yeah. And depending on when this podcast has been released, we do have that, basically Anthony came out to Austin, Dr. A came out to Austin and watched me record workouts for 3 days and sat on the couch in my office. So we brought in,
Yeah, all that's true.
we brought in some of we brought in some of his success stories from the Fit Father Project. We had a few guys from the Manful Yoga community come in, and we created a yoga program specifically for Fit Father Project. So
Yeah.
that is something that I'm pretty proud of. It also has a bit of a different teaching style because I'm actually teaching somebody. It's not me doing the workout and following along, but I'm actually guiding somebody through the workout. So anyways, I'm really proud of that program that we created together, depending on, which community you're with. I hope you can check it out. And yeah, I want to thank you for going deep, answering my questions.
You're welcome.
That was awesome. That's the whole reason why I started this podcast. Obviously passionate about health and wellness. I want you to be able to move well. I'm interested in you having the ankle mobility for a great squat, but there's a deeper level to that stuff. So I'm glad that you were able to go there with me. So thanks a lot.
Nice. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'm terrible at outros. Hope you have a great day, and hope to hear you or check in with you on the next episode or wherever you see me next. Thanks again, Anthony.
Bye.
If you like that episode, check out this other one right here. I think you're really going to enjoy it. If you haven't subscribed, click this subscribe button over here, and you can listen to the full episodes on any major podcasting platform. Full details below in the description.